you grow up with a NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Hello. I'm actually on vacation. Well, sort of vacation. I'm not on the regular shows this week, next week, or the week after, probably, depending on how things go. But I do have reviews ready to go, so I had pre-recorded this little message here saying, hey, we might have some shorter TurdOrTreasure review roundup podcasts, and you will still see me providing some reviews on the regular shows. But right now, I believe I'll have one or two, I think I throw in each of these special episodes because I want to make sure that they're timely, and we won't have a ton coming out. We're not going to have these episodes that have 7 to 10 reviews right now, as everything is sort of slowing down before the big consoles come out in November. So I'm not exactly sure which ones we're throwing in here, but you'll see in the description, and we'll have links to pick up whatever it is we're reviewing. Birdman will probably have some coming in the next episode. So without further ado, let's get to the first review.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
It's time to go off the beaten trail and just go a little strange, a little 90s, a little shot on video for this review. This is Limbo, brought to us by the AGFA, the American Genre Film Archive. They're known for releasing remastered prints, but remastered only in the sense of doing like a quick new scan of whatever material is there. They don't do any digital noise reduction, touch-ups. It's sort of trying to preserve the original look of the film. And they are putting out a lot of obscure and odd movies that were like shot on video back in the 90s or in the 80s. And this is actually the first release I've had a chance to review from them. And now Limbo is self-described by the creator, Tina Kraus, as very avant-garde, artsy horror. The best way to describe it is sort of a surreal descent into purgatory. There's a lot of interesting special effects that were all done as much as obviously in camera or in the scene, because they were filming using tape versus traditional film, or this is before the days of digital filmmaking being pretty much available to anybody. So the best way to describe it is it's actually kind of difficult. You're following one woman's descent into this world of supernatural and paranoia. There is dialogue in it, but a lot of it is very surreal with sound effects and mood setting, color, tone, and video effects. It's an interesting watch. It's actually what's made better by the commentary track that they added. After you watch it once, it runs for about 55 minutes. There is a commentary track where they come back 20 years later when they did a film festival, and they had Tina, the director, on to talk about it. And you find out how it was made on a shoestring budget. They filmed illegally in certain areas they didn't have permits for. They used stolen props and things to make the film. I won't want to spoil any more, because it's more fascinating even to me just how it was made than the actual film itself. And the special features that are included with this are almost in my mind, even better. There's one of Tina's short films that she produced called Answering Machine, and it is a relationship that slowly descends into violence, but you hear it all through two different answering machines where people are talking back and forth, missing each other's calls, and it gets more and more angry and dark as it goes on. Pretty cool for like a student film type of thing. And then Eaten Alive, which is a Wave Productions short. I had to look into what Wave Productions was because it was strange. Apparently Wave Productions was a company where anybody could write their own movie script for however long, 8, 10, 15-minute short, whatever you wanted to make it, send it in, pay money, and they would produce it with their stable of actors for you. And Tina apparently did tons of these films, and a lot of them are like borderline skin flicks. This one is about a woman who doesn't like that her other female coworkers are moving up in positions within her business, and she uses a ray gun that was created by a doctor to shrink them while they're naked and then eat them so that they disappear and she can get all the power. And it's all done with ridiculous shot on video, shot on shitio, whatever you want to call it, effects. And I had to like screenshot a few of them because they're so hilarious. I almost would want to see like a collection of those films. I wonder if if in the future the AGFA would actually put up more of them. So as a package, it's pretty sweet, and it's an interesting look into the world of shot on video and ultra low budget productions that I hadn't seen. My experience with ultra low budget stuff before had been a lot of the published stuff that Troma had distributed back in the day, where you could send in your video and they would distribute it for you and get a cut of the money. So I'd seen some of those horror ones from the late 80s, early 90s, but not the late 90s. I hadn't seen anything. So that Tina Kraus had actually starred in over 100 movies that had been these sorts of low-budget things over the course of 20 years or so. She's actually not an actress by trade, actually. She's a graphic designer, which is interesting. So interesting to me that I love the most is on the back of the box, it actually asks for your forgiveness for how bad the video quality may turn out to be. It's like we request that you have compassion for us because of the release, because it was remastered with a brand new transfer from the original SVHS master tape, not even a Betacam master. Betacam masters being what a lot of regular TV shows were filmed on, and SVHS being one step up from your VHS home camcorder release. This was like a prosumer camera. And it's in mono, obviously, but it's uncompressed, remastered, region-free. With all of those extra features with it, it actually is worth the $25 or so, especially if you're an aspiring filmmaker or just a fan of cinema, when you want to see what this rare era of late 80s, late to late 90s ultra low budget looked like before the advent of digital filmmaking techniques, and with basically when the mini DV started coming along and you could actually do nonlinear editing on a regular sub $10,000 computer. This was when it was all done by hand using dubbing techniques with different tapes. Really fascinating watch. And it's a pretty quick watch, and the special features make it worth it in my books.
Basically, use the geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Okay, I just thought I would do an update to the pre-order fiascos that have been happening. I know as of when this comes out, you'll have heard my initial experience. I mentioned previously that I wasn't able to get a PS5 at the first day of pre-orders. I was in line. I was like 10th in line, 12th in line, something like that. And they only had 4. But I was able to go in and pre-order an extra controller and the media remote. So, and you saw in the last show, fast forward, I did get a Series X, and it was sort of interesting. Now let's go forward a few days, and they announced that, we're going to have more pre-orders available for the PlayStation 5. So I go, I'm going to get there a little over 2 hours early instead of a half hour, 40 minutes to an hour early. I get there 2 hours and 15 minutes before open. And for those of you that don't know, like I've got some mobility issues. I've got a leg that gives me some pretty bad trouble. So I booked a mobility transit through the city to drop me off. I got there right on time. I'm standing there, and I'm like, I purposely didn't want to eat or drink anything because I knew it was going to be a few hour wait. And, if I left the line to go to the bathroom, I wouldn't be able to get back in line. So I'm standing up there. It's getting hot out. I get there thinking I'm going to be there early, and there's already 12 people or 13 people in line. And I'm like, I'm in the exact same spot I was the first Friday I went. And the guy at the very front of the line is the guy that stood next to me the Friday before. And as I'm walking up, he goes, "Hey, good to see you, motherfucker." And he's laughing his head off. I'm like, son of a bitch. And he was at the front of the line. He took a sick day without pay so that he could get there early. I asked what time he got there as I'm walking up, and he was there from about 5:45 in the morning. Store doesn't open till 11. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm in line. I end up striking up a conversation with two guys in front of me that were there just because it's boring standing there. And plus it's scalding hot. It's like 30 degrees Celsius plus humidity. There's no shade. Struck up a conversation with them. Eventually, at the end of the day, as we all went up the line, we ended up exchanging gamer tag and Facebook information. So now we're friends. So I made friends in the line of death trying to wait to get a PlayStation. So there's a little silver lining in all of this. Meanwhile, the line starts to form behind us up to about 30 or 40 people. And one lady that came a few people after me was there for a half hour. Then she decides to leave. And then she comes back right before the store opens and tries to get back into her spot. And there is a screaming match between the people behind her and her. And she's going full Karen mode. I have 3 kids. I can't expect to stand here the whole time. Blah, blah, blah. I was here first. And then they got to the point where they were ready to strike blows with each other. Men, women, everybody with her. And she was like, fuck off, blah, 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 blah. Who do you think you are? Blah, blah. And I turned around because everybody's like, I'm like already standing there a couple hours, and I'm ready to collapse. It turns out I probably had a mild heat stroke when I was there. I was so dehydrated, and I'm like ready to collapse. I turn around and I'm like, hey, somebody else said, hey, this guy standing here, he came with the mobility transit, the disability transit, and he's got a cane. He's standing here, and she goes, I don't give a fuck about your disability. Who the fuck do you think you are? Fuck you. And then I was just like, oh, if I had the energy, it would have been on. It would have been like fucking on, ready to go, bitch. But I was so tired. I was just like, oh, God. So security was called to the building, and she got real quiet real quick. But they didn't want to say anything bad to her, whatever. They wanted to stay nicey nice, whatever. But anyway, as we start to get to the front of the line, a few people finally go in after opening. They didn't know how many consoles they were going to have. And they come out with tickets for the rest of us, to hand out, you've got a console, just like they did with the Xbox for me. They get down to the 2 guys in front of me and me. He hands me a ticket, and he goes, that's it. I got the last one. And that lady just about blew up. I've been waiting. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, that's it. We can't take any pre-orders. The system will not allow us to take any more. What the fuck? And it was like it was like I was watching Americans. Sorry, American friends. It's like watching Black Friday lines and all the videos you see every Black Friday in the States. It was, and at the same time, like, I got my ticket after all that hubbub with that lady causing the big scene and us talking and just her interacting with me and people around me realizing that they could see I was not doing so good standing there. And the people in front of me and even like a guy behind me a few people behind me that were pissed they couldn't get it. They started clapping when I got the last ticket. And I went, oh, I got the last one? And they all started clapping. And I was like, oh my God. it's like the small first world victories, right? But it was some sort of vindication for standing there for 2 hours the Friday previously, standing there so dehydrated this Friday that I go in there, place my pre-order down. I was so happy. I ended up leaving, and the security guard came up to talk to me when I had to go sit on the bench that was for a little few doors down just to relax a few minutes before I could get my bearings again. I ended up talking to him for a half hour about the systems and ended up making a friend with the security guard, which was nice. And then I went and got a booster juice, something I would never normally do because they're hella expensive, but having no breakfast, and all I had was in the last 30 minutes while I was standing in line, I did have an energy drink just sort of boost me that I had picked up the night before. But like that wasn't enough to quench my thirst. So I did end up getting something because I had no food in my belly. At least with the booster juice, it's like, protein powder, all that sort of stuff. And it's like a thick slushy type thing, but it was $8.50 and it was like, I don't care. It's the best $8.50 I've ever spent on a drink. Went and sort of collapsed into the one area that had shade on a bench, sat there sipping my drink for 40 minutes. And then Mrs. Birdman came, picked me up because we were going to be visiting. And she's like, how are you doing? And I told her I felt like death. And so we picked up another drink from a drive-thru on the way up, and I rehydrated. I must have had like 4 liters of fluids that day just to get it into me. But it feels good to get the consoles. I feel bad for everybody else that waited in line and didn't get it. I felt extremely good that bitch didn't get shit. Fuck you, bitch. But I'm going to say this could have gone better pre-order-wise. I think a lot of the other stores, the EB Games, only had 5 or 6 consoles, even this second round. My location, I was lucky I picked the right one. They had 14, and I was the last one. I asked, I think it was 21 total over the last 2 weeks that they had, and they're probably not getting any more. They also have not had a single digital edition console for pre-order in their store. The SKU's not even live. They've had it online, but not in any of the stores. So I'm assuming that it's selling out that way first. They're trying to get the disc-based ones out because they are a game store that sells used physical games. They probably want that one out. Once they sell this, you might still have a chance of getting a digital, but I've got the ones I need to have for reviews and for watching movies and everything. So now it's just a matter of paying it off. I had a good chunk of credit still, so I'll be making a couple trips probably to pay off cash in the next month or so. And we're good to go. So Birdman got his. I think he got his Xbox through the Microsoft Store, and I think he got his PlayStation through Best Buy. So he's set. I got my... and he got, I believe, the PlayStation Digital Edition. I got the UHD Physical Disc Edition, and I got the Xbox Series X from EB Games. Eventually, I'll probably get an S for the bedroom, and we'll see how that plays. I would love to be able to get it at day one if it's not too prohibitive to try to get it on their financing thing, just so I can get Game Pass Ultimate and also compare how it works at, these games work at 1080p or 1440 versus right on the Series X. But if not, it doesn't matter that way. I'm thinking the only other purchase I really want to make was, do I get the expanded storage, which is $300 Canadian dollars? $300 for the 1 terabyte expansion, or do I just get and use an external SSD that I already have just to transfer games to when it gets full and transfer them back? I can probably get away with that because the transfer rate on those external SSDs that I have are 550 megs a second. That's pretty fast to move the data between if I need to do that and not spend $300 on that, and maybe get some money together and instead get the wireless Elite version 2 controller for the Series X, because I've heard nothing but good things about that, and that will last me. I'm not hard on controllers, so that'll last me several years. So I'm probably going to go that route. And the only other thing that I couldn't get at EB that I wanted to get, like I got a third-party charging dock on pre-order from Biogenic because it's like $20 versus $50 for the official one. And I don't care that it doesn't quick charge. It's a charging dock. I'm just going to leave it at nighttime. Who cares? But I did want to get the HD camera because I was on the fence about it initially because of streaming and that. But then I thought, you know what? I may as well. It looks like a good camera setup if I'm going to do streaming. EB sold out completely except for their online, and I'm not doing online because you got to pay up front. So I got an order on Amazon for that, so I'll have to pay that off. But I think we've sort of sorted through all of our hubbub of pre-order issues. Birdman's going to get the expanded storage right away because he does like to keep all of his games on the drive. Every single game he owns, he keeps on the drive, whereas I don't mind re-downloading. So for him, he's like, screw it, I'm just going to pay for it. And I see that, and I'm like, it hurts my soul spending that kind of money on data storage. But who knows? Things will come down in price later on. But that's going to be it. I know this was sort of a long diatribe, but it's sort of an addendum, a final update to the pre-order fiascos and stories that I had in the last 2 weeks, where I thought I was dying, thought I was going to have a heart attack. People were yelling at me, people were clapping for me, and I got the fucking systems.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
It's been a little bit since we reviewed a new headset, and it's actually been even longer since we reviewed a Skullcandy one. Well, they sent over their new full-size Crusher Evo headset. Retails for about $260-ish MSRP. It depends on obviously where you're going to buy it from, but it's part of that new line that you see from a lot of companies now, where they're doing personalized sound based on a mobile app you can install that sort of helps you customize a EQ setting for your ears and the shape of your ears and how you perceive sound individually. I ended up doing a calibrated version of that myself, and it turned out fine, but I still, as a personal preference, I prefer to listen to things flat, meaning just I want to review how things are without doing a lot of custom EQ. I'll say that the custom EQ does work quite well, and I do like that it's one of the more intuitive ones out there for that. Now, getting into how it sounds, you have to really look at it from two different perspectives, because this is a wireless Bluetooth headset with 40 hours of battery plus rapid charging. I got about 38 or so, 34 hours when I maxed out the volume and maxed out the extra bass on it, which is really something considering how loud and how rumbly the bass gets. Now on the wired through the auxiliary port, when you want to plug in directly just to a wired set, you obviously don't get the extra bass, but you will get the full frequency range. So in doing that, I found that it had really good highs, deep basses, not as deep as you get with the active battery Bluetooth settings and everything when you have the calibrated settings for having it in wireless mode. If you calibrate it in wireless mode with the Skullcandy app and you turn your bass on, you will get very close, if not indistinguishable, from the wired mode when it comes to frequency response, because that extra bass sort of makes up for some of the low end, and the calibration can sort of help with that too. But it is a pretty impressive set when it comes to even wired mode, which is a lot of times where these fail. They sort of just throw that in as an extra. This feels like it works as well in wired mode as it does wireless. Now, it does have your standard buttons for your call, track, and volume controls. Interestingly, instead of most other headsets now having a single button or holding a button to turn on extra bass, it has an analog slider and with a thick knobby button that actually it has a little force behind it when you turn it up and down, and the second you turn it on, it starts to rumble. It doesn't distort anything. So whatever frequency it's using, it must be on the super low end in like the subwoofer range below what they normally output, because I didn't notice any distortion or any coloring of the sound to make the highs sound lower than they should be. It just adds a whole lot of low end, and it literally shakes on your head, and I was laughing because it's just like brr, 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 and it was like feeling force feedback with certain songs. Fantastic, and not distorting at all, not feeling like it was sort of an afterthought. It feels like it just blends in well. I almost wish, and I tried doing different configurations, but it didn't work. I almost wish that you could be plugged in and have the like turn them on to use the battery just for that extra bass setting. And I don't think there might be firmware updates or something later on, but it doesn't seem to be able to do that, because I would love that, have the full frequency response of having it wired mode, and then have that extra bass just to kick in and just rattle your teeth. It also folds flat, comes with a actually fairly nice case to hold it, and its charging cable and the auxiliary cable. The build quality is very good. That's always something when you get into the $200, $300 range that, sometimes they have to sacrifice until you go really high end. Do they have to sacrifice the build quality or the audio quality? They didn't seem to compromise anything here. It has a velvety, soft touch to everything. There's no sharp metally edges or anything. The plastic has a smooth texture. The pads have a very nice cushion. You can wear them for hours without feeling hot or having it be too tight on your head. I have a very large head, so I'm sort of on the upper end of what these headphones will fit. And if it fits me, it'll fit 99% of most people's heads. It is one of the better headsets I think they've ever put out. Miles above anything else in that price range that sort of hits that this is like a premium feeling product at a mid-range price. So we'll see how the battery holds up to repeated charges, and really pushing it a lot with like cranking it with having that bass up all the time. We'll see how that goes over the next several weeks or months, but it's probably going to be my daily driver for quite some time to just try out other types of music. It works great with classical, rock. I tried some rap in there. Just make sure you have like good high quality audio files or physical media to play back through it, and it sounds great. Spotify sounds great if you have the audio setting to high quality, so you can get the better frequency range on those streams and downloads. And bravo, pretty good. I would recommend it if you have the money. You got a couple $100 set aside, and you're looking to maybe upgrade your audio set for on the go, because these do travel quite well. Then you're going to want to check out the Crusher Evos from Skullcandy.
Those magnificent bastards.
Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. What do we have coming up on the site? Not a whole lot. Birdman's sort of slowed down right now. We are taking a hiatus from recording stuff together, but I'm still going to be sending in segments, as I said in the intro to the show. Review-wise, we're waiting on a few things to come in the mail, but we're not exactly sure when everything's arriving. There should be a new Loose Cannon episode this coming week. And I believe a Nerd to the Third or something to that extent will be coming as well. And we're still working on, right now, getting stuff done for the website. We've actually got some of our preliminary artwork and some new profile pictures and things that we've been trying to produce in the works. They're roughly done. We just got to give the good old okay and get the sizes ready for them. But things are coming along quite well. I think by now we'll sort of we'll be settling in from the fervor of trying to get all of our pre-order stuff ready for the next gen console launches. So it's just the multiple week wait until we can get our hands on them. And I will definitely be doing an unboxing. I'll probably get my good camera out, my SLR, take some pictures, video, open her up, hook it up, and we'll probably start doing streaming. I was thinking, I got a big TV in the living room, but I sit far away from it with the camera. It might be difficult to properly capture the stream. So I might end up, if we do streaming, which I think if we get Demon's Souls, it'll probably be that one, and it'll probably be me doing it, even though I'm terrible at those games, which might make for funny commentary, I guess. I might hook it up to my monitor at my desk, because I have a dual monitor set up, and I can have another monitor open so I can monitor any chats if we decide to do it that way. And that way it's on a 1080p screen, a really good monitor that's 1080p. But I won't be maybe as terrified of those games. And it's also, I'll be sitting so close that, I can't sit, 2 feet away from a 65-inch TV and properly play it with the HD camera sitting there. Whereas I can do that from a 22-inch monitor where I'm a foot and a half away from it. So we'll see. We're going to work that out. And we're going to have new avatars and logos and banners and all that sort of stuff. Exciting things over the next month and a half to 2 months or so. So I guess the next time you hear me might be on a review on the main show next week. So I'll talk to you later.
Well, that's our show.
All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at ThisWeekInGeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at ThisWeekInGeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.